Hey, Danny Barker here. I'm a real estate agent, not a lender. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is how to shop for a lender. There's three things that you want in your lender. You want them to be accessible at all times. You want them to give you the best product at the best price. If you can get those three things, the only thing left is, do they perform as they promise? There's a lot of lenders that make bad promises. There's a lot of lenders that will tell you that they have the best price, but in the ninth hour, the last week of escrow, they drop the bomb on you, an extra 1, 2, and 3% of closing costs from them, right? There's a way to work with your realtor and your lender to figure out where those hidden costs are going to come from so you can avoid them. And if somebody tries to work in hidden costs with you or for you to pay, you should walk away. Are they giving you the best rate? There's a PAR sheet. We're going to bring up the PAR sheet here in a minute, but the PAR sheet is going to tell you what rate they're going to give you and what credits they're going to apply to your closing costs for that rate, or how much they would expect that you pay extra out of pocket for those closing costs. And then, are they accessible? Best way to test it is to send them a text message at 9 o'clock on a Friday night and see when they get back to you. If they get back to you right away, then you have the best scenario possible. If they get back to you on Saturday, then you have a good scenario, right? If they get back to you on Monday, walk away. Find another realtor, find another lender, and realtor too, if the realtor himself isn't answering you right away. So, accessible, best product, best price, and they're going to deliver what they promise, right? Now let's bring up the PAR sheet. This is just an example PAR sheet here. As you can see, the very, very left is the rate, and then you have APR, price, discount, lender fees, principal and interest, which is P&I, and then total payment, right? This is not factoring in taxes and insurance, which we'll have to factor in with your realtor. They're the ones that would know best on that. Now, if you go back to the rate, the first column, 6.125 is in bold, and what it's saying is that it's going to pay 0.417% of the loan amount. This loan amount is around $500,000, so what the bank is saying is if this borrower takes the interest rate of 6.125, they would pay that borrower $2,258 towards their closing costs, which is pretty nice, right? The next rate down from that, well, it's really up on this list, but down in interest rate is 6.00. They're asking that the borrower pay $596 extra in closing costs to get that difference. So what the difference between those two is you're looking at about $2,800, right? And if you go over to the payment, all the way to the right, you're looking at a $44 per month difference. So simple math would tell us that $2,800 divided by $44 per month is 63 months. So they already, in taking the 6.125% interest rate, they have already awarded you with 63 months worth of the benefit. Now here's the thing. There's the VA IRRRL, interest rate reduction refinance loan. That IRRRL is able to be done after you've made your sixth payment. So what does that mean? I close today in November of 2024. I make my first payment, not December, but January of 2025, right? So January, February, March, April, May, June. Once I've made my June payment, now I'm eligible for a refinance in the VA world. Now I can say, hey, interest rates in this last 6 months because of X, Y, and Z, whatever, let's not get political, but interest rates went down. Now I can refinance into this new loan. If you're not a disabled vet yet, then what that means is it's 0.5%. 0.5% is your funding fee. See, when you used your VA loan, it was 2 point something percent for your first time, 3 point something percent for your subsequent times, right? So instead of paying the 2 or the 3% in fees, VA understands you already got a VA loan, so we're just refinancing this one into a new one. So now it's 0.5%. Right? So now, let's say interest rates are at 5.5%, so 5.5%, and it's the same there's going to be a par sheet for that day too, because the par sheet changes 2, 3, 4 times a day sometimes, right? So the new par sheet you're going to look at is going to have similar information. So maybe we'll just roll this bread up and say at that time, 6 months from now, the par rate is 5.5% instead of 6.125%. Now you're going to have your payment go down to $3,074 instead of $3,290, right? So now you have a lower interest rate, you have a lower payment, and some argue you're going to have a higher owed amount. But this is when we affect the trifecta. What we do is we coach you to say, hey, you had an impound account with your last mortgage company. What they use that money for is to pay your taxes every 6 months and to pay your insurance every year. The banks do this so that you don't forget to make that payment, and then the tax lien and all of that stuff, right? They make sure for insurance reasons that you don't forget to make that payment, and God forbid something happened to your house and it's not covered, right? They're invested in your home as well. So they have this impound account. Let's say that impound account has $6,000 in it. When you do your refinance, you're going to load a new impound account, maybe $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000, maybe $6,000 into that new one, right? And that's going to go added to your owed amount. So when you get that $6,000 check from the last mortgage company, the mistake that a lot of people make is that they put it in their checking account and they call it tax-free money, right? And it is tax-free money because when you gave it to that mortgage company, you had already paid taxes on your income and then gave it to the mortgage company built into your payment, right? So instead of spending it, take that money, take that amount, $6,000, and apply it to your new mortgage. Say, hey, mortgage company, apply this $6,000 to my principal, right? Make sure you dictate that it's to the principal. You can do that online, or you can write them a check with it dictated on the check for the 4, right? Account number, principal in the 4 block. So now, next step to the trifecta is that you don't skip the payment. So let's say it's June or July even. Let's say it's July of 2025 and you refinance. Well, they're going to say you don't owe us a payment August 1st, right? You owe us a payment September 1st. So instead of skipping that August payment, just pay them what you were going to pay, the $2,390, whatever it was, right? And say, principal, please, right? So now you've raised your principal by refinancing because they took all of the impound amounts and they added it to it because they're allowed to do that, right? And it made it easier for you. You didn't have to come out of pocket that $6,000. You got your refund check or your reimbursement check from the mortgage company that you just refinanced out of. You applied that to your principal. Now you've made the next payment where they said you didn't have to. So now you got that on your principal. So in this scenario, you've got $80-something thousand. So here's the trifecta, right? Lower interest rate, lower payment, lower owed amount.